Welcome back to this channel. So in our previous videos, we have created a simple REST API. We have added the search, pagination, and we have handled our errors. And now in this video, we will implement the authentication in our API. Now there are two parts of this video. In the first part, we will add the authentication. We will create our login route, register route, and we will give the JWT token to the user. And in our next video, we will authorize our users. We will protect our routes from unauthenticated users. So make sure to watch all the videos. So in this video we will implement the authentication. So I am on the documentation of NestJs. You can see that here under security we have authentication. So NestJs uses passport library. If you don't know, passport is a very popular library for Node.js that is used for authentication. So NestJs uses the passport package, so we have to also use that. And you can see here we have a package that is NestJs/passport that is configured for the NestJs API. So we have to use these packages. So if you scroll down, we have to install all these packages in order to work. I simply copy it from here, copy that, and I go back and let's install all these packages. So I simply paste it here and let's install them. Let's go back and copy this as well and install it. Okay, so all packages are installed successfully. Now I have to create our module for authentication. So I type here NestJ module, and the name of the module is going to be auth. So I will generate the module. Now let's create our controller and service for the module. So I type here NestJ controller auth -- no spec, so that it will not create any testing file. We will handle the testing in our upcoming videos. So I will create my controller. Then I will create my service file here. And that is it. Now let's work on our application. So first of all, let's configure our passport in our auth module, and then we will create our two routes for the login and sign up. Okay. So you go to source, and the auth, we have this auth module.ts, and here we have to configure our and let's actually before that create our schema. So in the auth, create a new folder that is called schemas, create a new file. I call it user.schema.ts. Let's create our schema first. I close this one. So here first of all I use here schema, and I will pass the option that timestamps to true. Oops. So that it will add the time automatically when we will create our user. So I export here a class. I have discussed all about these in my previous video. If you haven't watched that, you can watch that also as well. Then it will make more sense. Now let's add our fields here. So I add here at prop decorator, in which we can pass further options for these fields, but I will leave it empty. String, and then we have it here two fields. One is the email and one is the password. So in the props, I will simply type here some options like unique to make sure that the email is unique. And if the email is not unique, we will simply send back duplicate email entered like this. Simply save this one, and then we have to export here. So export const user schema. So I use here schema factory dot create for class and pass in here my user. Okay, so now our schema is ready here. Now let's actually close this one, go to our auth module. Now let's register our schema as well and also set up our passport here. So I create here imports array. In that I will first of all set up here the mongoose module dot for feature, and in that we have to pass the array of our models. So the first is going to be user, and schema is going to be the user schema like this. And now we have to configure our passport module. As I have explained before, NestJs uses the passport for the authentication. So I use here passport module, and I have to import that from NestJs/passport that we have installed before. Okay, then register. Okay, now in the register we have to pass here one option that is default strategy. that which strategy we want to use, and we want to use the JWT strategy. Okay, so now we have registered our passport module. Now let's register our JWT module. So JWT module, and I think so I have to install that as well. So I type here npm I at NestJs/JWT. Let's install this package also. Okay, so package is installed successfully. Now I type here passport JWT module. I have to import that from NestJs/JWT dot register async. So we will use here register async. We can use here the simple register function, but we have to also use the config variable inside it. So that's why we have to use here register async. So let me show you how it will work. Now here we have to first of all inject our config service, because we have to use here two config variables. One is the JWT secret and one is the JWT expire. If I go to my env file, let's register here first of all JWT expire and also JWT secret. So make sure that to put here a strong secret. I will use here my name according to the bus, and then the JWT expire. So this is the expiry time of the token. So I type here like 3 days. Now the expiry time of our JWT token is going to be 3 days. So I will define all my two variables here, close it. Now we have to use that here, and before that we have to inject our config service. So I use here inject, and the inject I will use here config service. And if you don't use here like this, you will not be able to access here process.env.jwt secret. It will throw undefined. So we have to use that in this way. We have to inject our config service, then we have to use here a function that is called use factory, and now in that we will get access to the config. So the config and the type is going to be config service like this. Now let's return from here an object. In that we have to pass two things. First of all the secret. Okay, now we have defined secret in our env file, so I will use here config which is this one, that will give us access to the env variables. So dot get, and I use here JWT underscore secret, and one more, that is the sign in options, and that is going to be JWT expires, I think so, expires, save it. So this is the variable that we have to use, and let's also give here type, that is going to be string, and this is going to be also string, but it can be a number also, because if user only pass here like 5 or 6 or 10 like for the minutes or other numbers, so we have to allow that also. So it is going to be either a string or number, and we have to actually cut it from here, create here an object. In that we will have to pass here expires in, and then we will use like this. Simply save it, and now it will set up our password module, JWT module, and also we have registered our user schema here. Simply we have to register our password module like this, pass in here our default strategy, that is going to be JWT. Then we will use here our JWT module. We have to register it. So I will inject my config service, because I want to access my config variables inside it. So I have to pass here two things. First of all the secret, which is going to be this, and then in the sign options I have to pass the expiry date of that token, which is this one that we have defined in our config file. Now let's remove this one and go to our here in the service and create our routes for the login and sign up. So here first of all in the auth service I will create my constructor. We have to inject our model. So I will simply type here add inject model, and I have to pass here the user dot name. Okay, and then I will call it private user model, that is going to be model, and type is going to be user. Okay, and I have to import the model from Mongoose like this. And then here after the constructor I have to register my user, so I type here async, I call it sign up, and in that I have to pass here sign up DTO that I will create in a minute. And I have to first of all get name, email, and then the password from the sign up DTO. Okay, and then I have to hash my password before saving in the database. So I have to also install one more package, that is bcrypt.js. So npm I bcrypt.js, I will install it first of all, and then I type here const hashed password is going to be await bcrypt dot hash, and we have to also import that. So import all as bcrypt from bcrypt.js. So bcrypt dot hash. Now in that I have to pass in here the password, then the salt value I type here 10, which is also a default value. So now we have here our hash password. We have to save the user in the database. So I simply type here const user is going to be await this dot user model dot create, and in that I will simply pass in here name, email, and then the password that is going to be hashed password like this. Okay, and now you can also return the user from here, but I have to assign JWT token to the user. So that's why I will use here a assign function that will assign a JWT token to that user. How we can do that? First of all, we have to use here, create here a variable. So private, that is going to be JWT service, and the type is going to be JWT service that I have to import from NestJs JWT. Okay, I have to put in here comma, and now I will simply type here const. I have to create a token. So token is going to be this dot JWT service dot sign. So the sign function help us to generate a JWT token. So on the sign we have to pass the payload. So what is the payload? Payload is the data that we want to save in the token. So we want to save the ID of the user. So I type here ID, and the value is going to be user dot underscore ID. Okay, and now we have to return the token from here. I simply type here return token. Okay, and the return type of this is going to be, I type here promise, and that is going to be an object that contains token, and type is going to be string. Okay, and let's actually first of all create our sign up DTO. I go to the auth, create here DTO, and if you don't know about DTO and all this stuff, I have discussed all that in my previous videos. Make sure to watch those videos if you don't know. So I created a new file that is sign up.dto.ts. So I actually just go to the book DTO to save some time, and copy this from here, copy, put that here. I don't need here this part, don't need here this. So the first thing is going to be the name of the user, so that is going to be string and it is not empty. Then we have here the email, that is going to be is email decorator, and then I pass in here the option. I type here message please enter correct email, and this is going to be password. And I can also define one more decorator here, that is minimum length. So min length, I type here 6, that the minimum length of the password is going to be 6. I remove here is number from here, and also this enum, and that is sign up DTO. Simply save this one, and also I will simply copy that from here, create a new DTO for the login. So login.dto.ts, put that here, and here we need here only email and the password. I simply remove this one, and that is it, and this is login DTO. Simply save this one. We have created our DTOs. I close this one, and here I give the type that is going to be sign up DTO. Okay, so now let's create our controller for this sign up. I go to my auth.controller.ts, and then here I will create my constructor, and in that I will simply add here my private variable that is going to be auth service. If you don't know, private variable can only be accessed inside a class if you don't know about the OOP. So that's why we create here a private variable so that it can only be accessed inside the class. Okay, so auth service, and the type is going to be auth service like this, and then that is going to be a post request. I type here slash sign up, so it is going to be slash auth slash sign up, and then here I name the function, and from the body I have to get my sign up DTO. Okay, so sign up DTO, and then it will return a promise, and it object we have token type is going to be string, and in that I will simply return this dot auth service dot sign up and pass in here the sign up DTO like this, and oops, that is only sign up DTO. Okay, so now we will pass the sign up DTO, which is the body, in the sign up, and it will hash the password, save this on the database, and assign the token to the user. Now let's test our route. So I restart my server here, and okay, so there is not any error. Let's go to a postman. I simply copy this from here. This is going to be a post request that is going to be slash auth slash sign up in the body row, and let me type here the data, and here you can see that I have passed here incorrect email, and the password is also just 5 characters. And if I click on send from here, you will see that please enter correct email address and password must be longer or equal to 6 characters. If I type here at, now I will get only password error, so I type here 6. So validation is working properly. Now if I click on send from here, you can see that we get back here our token, that this means that user is created successfully, and this is 201 created. If I go to a website that is JWT.io, here we can actually see what is inside the token. So I simply go back and copy this token from here, and here if I paste it, you can see that here we have the ID of the user here. Okay, so our token is created successfully, and we have successfully saved our user also. Now let's create our second route for the login. So I go back in the controller, sorry, in the service, and then here type here async login. Now in the login I have to pass here login DTO that will contain email and the password of the user. So DTO, that is going to be login DTO, and it will also return this token. Okay, and now first of all I need to get here the email and then the password from the login DTO, and now we have to first of all check that if the user exists or not. So I simply type here const user is equal to await this dot user model dot find one, and in that we will pass the email. So we will check that if the user exists with this email or not, and I check that if not user, we will simply throw new unauthorized exception, and it is going to be invalid email or password. Okay, and if the user exists with that email, now we have to validate the password. So I type here const is password matched. I will use here bcrypt, bcrypt has a function that is called compare. In the compare, we have to pass first of all the password that user has passed in the body. So I type here the password, then the second password which is saved in the database, which is the hashed password. So that is going to be user dot password. Okay, again I check that if not password matched, then we will throw this unauthorized exception. Otherwise we have to assign the token. So I simply copy this from here, and if the email is correct, password is correct, then we will give back the token to the user like this. Simply save it. Now go to auth controller and I copy this from here, and let's make it get pass in here login. I also have to import it, that is going to be login, and that is login dot login. Okay, and now if I simply save it, now let's test it out. If I go to my postman and I copy this from here, that is going to be login, and the body row I pass this. So if I type here wrong password like this, click on, oops, I have to remove this name from here, click on send, you can see that invalid email or password. If I type here correct password but wrong email, send, then invalid email or password. And if I remove this from here, click on send, you can see that we get back here our token. And if I copy it from here, go back and put that here, you can see that we have our ID of the user in the token. So now we have successfully created two routes. One is for sign up and one is for the login. And we are also assigning the JWT token to the user. And in my next video, I will basically protect my routes from the unauthenticated users. And also I will save the user in the book. Okay, so I will handle that in my next video. I hope that you understand. If you have any question, you can definitely post your question in the comment section. And if you want to check out my Udemy course about Nest.js, I will also add the link in the description of this video. So you can also find the source code in the description of this video. Now in my next video, I will continue with the authentication and protect my routes from the unauthenticated users. We will create our JWT strategy. Okay, and then we also save our user in the book. All right, so I will see you in the next video.